Hello, thank you so much for getting in touch with me to talk about Jack and what you've been seeing at home. I really appreciate you wanting to get in touch with me to be able to talk about this and better support Jack in whatever way you can. Looking at your email, what I understood is you've been noticing some more tantrums at home, and some patterns that you've seen are that Jack, when he goes in from a preferred activity to a non-preferred activity, that usually triggers a tantrum, which is awesome that you've been noticing those things. When it comes to a bad mood, I completely understand this. I have parents coming to me about, them thinking that their child is in a bad mood and it's causing different things. It is very normal to think that way and notice your child's mood and seeing how that might affect their behavior, which is very common, and I completely see that and see where you're coming from. When we talk about what we do and what we see here in the clinic, we focus more on observable behavior, so what happens before and after the behavior. So you have picked up on, before, and those transitions from preferred to non-preferred, and then, there's a tantrum, and then whatever consequence there is after the tantrum. So I really want to point out that with these tantrums, Jack might be communicating with you that, no, I don't want to, switch from this activity to another activity. Or he might be trying to avoid the next activity that you're trying to get him to do. With that example, I want to give another example of us putting ourselves in their shoes. So let's imagine you're watching TV, or you're shopping, or you're engaging in a preferred activity for yourself, and then someone comes in and tells you, hey, it is time to do your taxes now. So yeah, you might be a little hesitant on doing this next activity because you had no warning. You're engaging in this preferred activity. You don't want to go and do something that you don't want to do. So now that we know these things, now that we're picking up on these things and focusing on what we actually see in his environment, because what we see in his environment, we can change, or we can help move things around in the environment to help and support his behavior. I can't really help or control how he feels, if he's sad or mad or frustrated, but I can help with whatever is in his environment. So if I know his triggers in the environment, I can probably help him out with those tantrums a little bit more, or be able to predict those tantrums a little bit more, which you already kind of started doing by noticing these transitions. So now that we know this, we're able to take this information and now better support him. So now we know that these preferred to non-preferred activities may cause this tantrum or whatever the behavior might be. And now we know he might need some timers. He might need some more preparation for this transition. So like telling Jack, hey Jack, in like 15-20 minutes, we're gonna move on to this non-preferred activity. He might be reluctant on starting, the tantrum might start there and then, but just communicating and letting him know and really preparing him for that transition might help with the transition. Now that he knows, he's prepared, or more likely to be okay with whatever the next transition is, as long as we're ready for it. So I hope this makes sense. And please, I encourage you to keep looking at those patterns in your home and seeing what triggers what behavior. This really helps me and how I can help Jack. So again, I really hope this made sense. Please reach out to me if you have any more questions, or you notice anything else, or you have any comments on what I said. I am more than happy to talk whatever you're seeing at home through and what I'm seeing here, and kind of collaborate in that way. So yeah, let me know if you have anything else for me, and please reach out if you have any questions. Thank you. Okay, now we're transitioning to the instructor. Hi, instructor. So the first thing that I wanted to do with my explanation to the parents is not to use jargon. So I tried to use just understandable language that was not, technically like ABA language, like functional analysis, negative reinforcement, positive reinforcement, like any of those vocab words that parents, might not know the definition of or might not be able to put things together. I think, it's very important for parents to be able to understand what is going on with their child, and understand everything that, the clinician is explaining to them, so they're able to understand and apply it in their home. So I try to use all understandable language for them to fully understand everything that is going on and everything that I'm saying, so they're able to, pick up on these new things that I would like them to do, like focusing more on those observable behaviors and things that we can actually physically change in the environment more than the emotions. So then moving from jargon to the next thing that I wanted to focus on is using relatable examples. So kind of like the example that I used with the TV or shopping or whatever their preferred activity was, and going from a preferred to non-preferred activity like the taxes. I really wanted the parents to put themselves in the child's shoes, so they're more likely to be able to understand why they might be behaving the way they're behaving or feeling the way they're feeling, since they were talking about mood. So I wanted to make sure that whatever example that I used was relatable, and again, they were able to understand and really put themselves in their child's shoes, to better understand why those contingencies might be happening with those transitions and the tantrums. So another thing that I wanted to do when talking to parents is using a compassionate and empathetic tone in my voice. So I didn't want to make it seem like I was telling them what to do and I was, getting in their face about, no, you should be focusing on this instead of this. I really wanted to make them feel understood, and it is very normal to think about your child's mood when it comes to behaviors. I didn't want to invalidate their feelings or their thoughts, because if I didn't study applied behavior analysis, I would probably be thinking the same way, like, oh, they're in a bad mood all of the time. So I try to do it in a tone where you're not wrong. I want to validate your feelings. Absolutely. You're, their parents, you're very important. You know them the best. But when it comes to what we do and actually analyzing their behavior and seeing those patterns, this is the better way to do it. So that kind of goes into the next thing that I really wanted to focus on, was radical behaviorism. So I hope I explained it in a way that was understandable, but again, focusing more on those environmental factors that might be causing these tantrums, instead of just those emotions, like in a bad mood. According to Skinner and radical behaviorism, we need to look at those environmental factors and not just those innate factors. So really trying to emphasize that although I completely validate what they are saying in, their son, and I am not saying that they're wrong, it is really important to look at those external factors and those environmental factors and seeing what we can change, because I can't change how they feel or their emotions, but I can't help change whatever their environment is, or help out with those triggers that we know trigger that big tantrum. So those were 4 things that I really wanted to focus on in my presentation or in my talk with the parents. Hopefully that all made sense. But thank you so much.